good day, everyone, especially to our professor, Dr. Good day po. So, my topic is regarding forensic linguistic in threatening letters. So, a forensic linguistic, we all know that it is application of linguistic knowledge and techniques to legal matters. So, there are key areas of analysis and threatening letters in Philippine settings. So, first, is the author identification. So, in author identification, it includes the vocabulary, the grammar and syntax, the punctuations, and the dialect or accent used by the writers. So, in vocabulary, the words a writer chooses can reveal their level of education, profession, and cultural background. So, for an instance, the use of technical terms, a jargon might suggest a particular field of expertise. As I've said by the first reporter, by Miss Leia, that the vocabulary or the word of choice, the choice of word is it includes on the let's say pag millennials, usually ang mga gamit na terms ay pang millennial, pang Gen Z. So that is the example on the word of choice. Next is the vocabulary. So sa vocabulary, the variety of words can use indicate the writer's education level and intellectual sophistication. So a limited vocabulary might suggest a less educated writer. Next is, under the vocabulary, I have here also a slang and idiom. So, the use of slang or idiom can provide clues about the writer's regional or cultural background. So, also, si grammar and syntax, kasali pa din siya sa author identification. The error in grammar and syntax can be indicative of a writer's education level or native language. Also, the sentence in structure and the sentence length. So, for instance, also if ever na well-educated ang writers, kay medyo mahaba-haba yung mga ginamit ng mga letters or sentences sa threatening letters. So, next is the punctuation. The way a writer uses punctuation can reveal their writing style and personality. The next is the dialect or accent under the author identification. The analyzing the language used can help identify the writer's geographic origin. So next, in the key area of analysis and threatening letter is the intent of motive of the writer. I have also here the explicit trend, the implied trend or threats, and the emotional tone. So we all know that when we are writing, we also express our feeling. So dun nahuhulog or nafo-fall yung emotional tone na yon. Particularly pag merong threat, na include doon sa letter na yon. So next sa key analysis is also in addition pala sa explicit threats, we are also know or familiar with the direct and clear intent and motive of the letter, kung ano talaga yung threat na gusto ipaabot ni writer. Kung clear ba siya or hindi. So, for example, ang clear no, ang direct, clear na letter is that I'm going to kill you, I will make you regret this, or I will get back at you. So the motive, no, is clear na nagte-threat din siya. Whereas kung naman si implied threats, those are the threats are indirect, no. These threats are not stated directly but can be inferred from the context or language. For example, no, you should watch your back. So hindi siya clear kung threat ba jud siya, no? Then I know where you live, or I have ways of making you disappear. So medyo hindi siya point na papunta na siya sa najud motive to kill someone. The next under the intent and motive is the emotional tone. No, as I've said a while ago that when in writing, nag-express talaga tayo ng feeling. So, next is the time and place of writing. The investigator or the forensic linguistics are capable of investigate kung ano ba talaga or kung saan time and place of writing. So, the references to time and place, examining references to specific dates, times, or location can help determine when and where the letter was written. Next is the lexical and syntactic clues. No, analyzing the language used also can provide clues about the writer's geographic location and the time period in which the letter was written. So, when analyzing a writing or the written document, no, understanding the time and place it was created can provide valuable context sa part ng investigator. So, this information can help determine the historical significance of the document, the writer's perspective, and the cultural influences at play. So, the explicit mentions, na these are the direct references to specific dates, time, or location. Next, no, is the under the key analysis of in threatening letter is the authenticity and forgery. So, linguistic inconsistencies, no, identifying inconsistencies in writer's style, vocabulary, or grammar can be indicative of forgery. Also, it includes the handwritten analysis, no? Comparing the handwritten of the threatening letter to known sample can help determine authenticity. Yung mga, let's say example, ang mga dating cases, no, can help at least to have references with regard sa magiging handwritten analysis ng isang letter. So, when analyzing a document, no, it is essential to determine its authenticity. So, this is particularly important when dealing with threatening letter or other document that could have serious consequences. So, those are the key areas of analysis and threatening letters: the author identification, the intent and motive of the letter, the time and place of writing, and the authenticity and forgery. So, there are challenges, no, in analyzing threatening letters. So, the limited sample size, kasi we all know that especially, no, or particularly here in the Philippines, hindi siya masyado ganun ka big deal, no, to conduct certain investigations that deals with the threatening letters. Wala pa masyadong cases or wala pa talagang cases here under the Philippines na pwedeng ma-apply si forensic linguistic. And the next is the anonymity and the emotional content. So, in forensic linguistic, threatening letters in an international context, no, as applied to threatening extended beyond national borders. So the techniques used to analyze this letter can be universally applied, though cultural nuances and linguistic variation may influence the interpretation of the evidence. Particularly, if sa ibang lugar o ibang bansa yung nanggaling, no, yung letter in which doon ipapadala sa ibang bansa. So, the interpretation possible na magbabago or there are changes. So, in consideration, no, in the international context are the cross-cultural understanding, the language translation, and the international cooperation, and the last one is the legal framework. So those are the key consideration in the international context. In cross-cultural understanding, we have here, or I have here, the linguistic differences, as I've said, no, kanina, then cultural nuances, and the regional dialect. So the variation of grammar, syntax, and vocabulary across languages can affect the interpretation of threatening language, as well as the understanding cultural context, no, is also essential for accurately interpreting threats, and the regional dialects, no. Variation with a language can also influence the interpretation of threatening language. Next is the language translation. The accuracy, no? Translation is crucial for understanding the content and intent of a threatening letter within in a foreign language, in which, no, kasama din dito yung translator must be aware of the cultural context and legal implications of the threat to ensure accurate translations. Kasi kahit sabihin natin na they're all using the English language, no, iba-iba pa din ang interpretations ng mga words when it comes to places na meron or doon i-interpret ang isang threat letters. So also, sa key consideration in the international context is the international cooperation. So this is a very important with regard sa mga ganitong cases kasi hindi lahat ng country, no, internationally na mayroong na kinakaharap na ganong cases kasi it is not a major cases na meron sila sa ibang lugar o sa ibang bansa, international. So last is the legal framework. Sa legal framework, meron akong international conventions, no, upon my research that international conventions are those understanding international and treaties related to threat and terrorism is essential for effective investigations and prosecutions. Also, no, the domestic laws. So knowledge of domestic laws in the countries involved is also crucial for understanding the legal implication of threatening letters. So I have here the case studies, no, na research sa threatening letters. So this is the DC sniper attack in which the DC sniper attack series of shooting that took place in the Washington DC metropolitan area in October 2002. So, while not directly involving threatening letters, no, the attacker used a variety of methods to communicate with law enforcement and the media, including anonymous calls and handwritten notes. So, maliban doon sa unang assignments natin, no, na yung the Soja killer and the Anna bomber. So including na yon, na yun talaga yung international na medyo known as a threat letters using letters na cases which involve the forensic linguistics, those investigators na apply doon yung forensic linguistics. So in Philippines, may na-search ako sa Philippines is the in Philippine settings, sa case study, I have here the anonymous threat case in the Philippines. But, suddenly, wala akong makitang ni references na nagpapatunay na na-push talaga yung ganong klaseng case here in the Philippines. So, to give you a short background, in 2018 daw, a series of anonymous threatening letters was sent to various government officials and institutions here in the Philippines, causing widespread fear and concern. So, the letters contain vague threats of violence and instability and were writing style that suggests the author was well versed in the Philippine politics and current events. So, upon going to a deeper conduct of research, wala akong nakitang any references or book na nagpapatunay na meron talaga yun siya. Siguro hindi siya ganun ka-known na case kasi hindi pa naman talaga ina-apply dito sa Pilipinas yung forensic linguistic. Kasi nga, hindi naman, pero in our law enforcement nowadays, drug cases nga na nafa-file ng PNP natin, especially those in the line agency of Philippine National Police, hindi nga nila nagagawang patunayan, Sa prosecution pa lang, sa prosecutor pa lang, nadidismiss na yung case. So, yun yung medyo masaklap sa ngayon na sa CGS natin. We all know that our CGS, those interventions, mga programs are good, Hindi naman siya ganun napapabayaan. Pero the implementation itself, doon medyo tayo tagilid. So, yun lang. And I also upload the references, Doc, para at least makita po saan nanggaling yung PowerPoint ko. So, thank you very much and have a good day.